The Girl Who Cried Light. The metal room was cold. The lights above were white and silent. Machines hummed like whispers in a graveyard. In the center of the room sat a small alien girl. She was only 9 years old. Her skin was soft and blue, her hair like silver strings. Her name was Lyra. Lyra was scared. She didn't know where her parents were. She didn't know what this place was. The last thing she remembered was playing near the river with her brother. Then, loud noises, bright lights in the sky, and everything went dark. Now she was alone. Wires were connected to her arms and back. Her hands were shaking. She wanted to cry. She wanted her mother. But when the tears came, they were not normal. They were made of light. Soft glowing drops fell from her eyes and landed on the metal floor. The room lit up with a warm, sad glow. The machines beeped louder. A voice came through a speaker on the wall. "She is producing again," it said. "Prepare the drain cycle." The machines around her came to life. Tubes began to move. A mask lowered from the ceiling. "No," Lyra whispered, but the machine didn't care. The mask locked onto her face. She screamed. The lights from her tears grew brighter. Her small body began to glow. The machines took her light, her energy, and stored it. Outside the room, tall alien guards in black armor watched from behind glass. They were called the Zorak. They had no eyes, only dark masks. They didn't speak much. They didn't feel. To them, Lyra was not a child. She was a battery. They called her a Type L source, a rare kind of being whose body could produce living energy. And they had found her first. They would use her to power weapons, to win wars, to destroy worlds. But far away, on a small human base floating near a dead moon, a man was watching. His name was Ray Carter. He was tall, with a sharp jaw and tired eyes. His hands were strong, but his heart was tired. He had once been a soldier, one of the best, but he had left the war behind, or tried to. Ray sat in a small room filled with old screens. One of the screens blinked, a hidden signal. He leaned forward and played the message. At first, the screen showed only static. Then a girl, blue skin, glowing tears, screaming. Ray stared at her face. For a long time, he said nothing. He reached into his pocket and took out an old photo. A little human girl smiled back at him. His daughter. She had died years ago in an alien attack. Ray closed his eyes. His hands shook. Then he stood up. He walked to a large door at the back of the room. He unlocked it with his thumbprint. Inside was something old, dusty, and powerful. A black ship with red stripes. The name written on the side. The Vengeance. Ray ran his fingers over the metal. "You still remember me," he whispered. The ship beeped once, soft and low. Ray smiled for the first time in years. "I need your help," he said. "There's a girl. They're using her, like they used my daughter. Not again." He sat inside and powered it up. The engines came alive with a deep growl. Old stars lit up on his screen. A new AI voice spoke. "Welcome back, Captain Carter," it said. Ray strapped himself in. "Set course," he said, "for hell." Back on the Harvester, the prison ship where Lyra was held, the girl lay on the cold floor. Her light was dim now. Her energy was low. She thought she was going to die. But something inside her told her to hold on. Someone was coming. Far out in the stars, one human was coming for her. And he would make them pay. One man was a machine empire. The stars were silent. In the middle of that silence, a black ship moved like a shadow across the dark sea of space. It didn't shine. It didn't blink. It was invisible to the eyes of machines. It was made to hunt. Inside that ship sat one man, Ray Carter. He was calm, focused, but inside, something burned. It wasn't anger. It was deeper than that. It was pain sharpened into purpose. He had watched the video of the alien girl again and again. The way she cried light, the way she screamed when they took it from her. He had seen fear before. He had seen pain before, but not like that. Lyra was just a child with a gift, and they were using her like a tool, like a thing. Ray had seen the Zorak Empire do that before, not just to aliens, but to humans too. And no one had stopped them. No one dared. But Ray didn't care about odds anymore. He didn't care about rules. He had one ship. They had thousands. He didn't care. The AI voice in his ship, a program he named Juno, spoke into the silence. Approaching Zorak border zone. Stealth systems active. No scans detected. Ray leaned back. "Good," he said. "Let's keep it that way." Juno's voice had a dry tone. Infiltrating the largest alien empire in the galaxy with a stolen stealth ship and no backup. "I give you 10 hours before death." Ray smirked. "That's 8 more than I need." Juno beeped. Brave or stupid? Ray checked the old rifle next to him. He had used it in wars years ago. It still worked. Like him. A little broken, but dangerous. He stared at the map. The Harvester, the prison ship holding Lyra, was deep inside Zorak space, surrounded by defense lines, patrols, and war stations. Going straight in was suicide. So he had another plan. Step 1. Capture a scout ship and steal Zorak access codes. Ray waited near a gas giant where Zorak patrols passed every 6 hours. When the next ship came, he didn't wait. The Vengeance dropped out of hiding like a hawk. One sharp blast. The enemy ship was dead in space. Ray entered through the side doors and moved through the corridors fast. No mercy. The Zorak inside never even got to scream. He downloaded their system codes and left a bomb behind, just in case. As he flew back into the dark, Juno spoke again. 1 kill. 99,000 to go. Ray ignored her. Step 2. Find allies. Ray couldn't take down the Harvester alone. He needed help, but not from humans. Earth had already signed peace deals with the Zorak. They would not risk war again. So Ray looked elsewhere, to those who had suffered like Lyra. He flew to a hidden moon called Sendros 5, where survivors of many destroyed worlds hid like ghosts. There, he found a small group of rebel aliens who hated the Zorak. Their leader was a tall alien named Kale, skin like burned stone, eyes like deep oceans. Kale didn't trust humans, but he listened to Ray's story. He watched the video of Lyra. When it ended, Kale looked away. "My sister was like her," Kale said. "They took her, turned her into energy. She died glowing." Ray nodded. "Then help me stop them. Help me save this one." Kale looked at him for a long time. Then he said, "I'll help. But after this, we burn the Zorak station where they train the Harvesters." "Deal," Ray said. Step 3. Locate the Harvester. Using the stolen codes and Cal's contacts, they traced the ship's path. It was heading to Sector 9, where the Zorak tested new weapons. That gave them only 48 hours. After that, Lyra would be fully drained. Nothing would be left but an empty shell. Ray stared at the timer on his screen. 48 hours. He remembered holding his own daughter in a hospital bed. She had been 9 years old too. He had promised her he would protect her. He had failed. But not this time. Not again. He looked at Kel. "We move in 6 hours." Kale nodded. "We have a plan." Ray looked at the map of the Harvester. It was massive. Part ship, part lab, part factory. He pointed to a weak spot under the fuel lines. "We land there. Go in through the old tunnels. Quiet and fast. And if it goes loud," Kale asked. Ray picked up his old rifle. "Then we make them scream." Back on the Harvester, Lyra was awake again. She was weak. Her body hurt. Her light was small. But she felt something strange, a soft vibration in the floor. A signal. A feeling. Someone was coming. She didn't know who, but her heart believed it. So she closed her eyes and whispered, "Please, hurry." In the shadows of deep space, one human warrior and one rebel alien prepared for a suicide mission. The galaxy had forgotten what humans could do when they were angry. They were about to remember. The girl who fought back. The room was full of wires and blinking lights. The air smelled like burnt metal. Machines clicked and hummed like hungry beasts. In the center, lying on a cold silver table, was Lyra. Her eyes were half open. Her body didn't move much, but her mind was awake. She felt empty. They had taken too much of her energy again. Every time they drained her light, it felt like losing a part of her soul. But Lyra didn't cry anymore. She was learning. Her light was changing. She could feel it. For the first time, Lyra noticed something strange. A quiet sound, deep in her chest, like a heartbeat made of light. It pulsed gently. It spoke to her without words. It said, "You are not just a battery. You are something more." The Zorak scientists didn't notice. They were busy checking their readings, planning the next energy drain. They spoke in sharp voices and numbers. They didn't care about the girl. They cared only about power. One of them touched a screen and said, "She will reach final output levels in 20 hours. Another replied, "Once she's dry, dispose of her. The body is useless after extraction." Lyra heard them, every word. She didn't understand all of it, but she understood one thing. They were going to kill her, but not yet. She still had time. And now, she had something else. She had a spark. Far away, Ray and Kale flew through dead space in a stolen Zorak transport ship. The outer shell was made to look like a normal cargo vessel, but inside it was filled with weapons and old tech, the kind that hurt Zorak machines. Ray sat at the controls, his eyes locked on the map. 8 hours left, he said. Juno replied through the speakers, "If you want my honest opinion, this is insane. I didn't ask for your opinion." "Then let me give you facts. The Harvester is heavily armed. Patrols are increasing. You'll have less than 5 minutes to sneak in before detection." Ray tightened his grip on the controls. "Then we don't get caught." Kale loaded his weapon and looked at Ray. "If we fail, we die. If we win, they will come after us with everything." Ray nodded. "Let them come." Back on the Harvester, Lyra's fingers twitched. The machines around her didn't notice, but her light was growing again, not because they were taking it, but because she was calling it. In her mind, she saw her mother's smile, her brother's laughter, her home, the green trees, the warm sky, the river where she used to swim. The memories made her light stronger. She closed her eyes and whispered something soft in her own language, and her hand began to glow. Not like before, not soft and weak. This time it was sharp, bright, dangerous. The machine connected to her arm sparked. The energy readings spiked. An alarm sounded. The scientists looked up in shock. "Power overload," one shouted. "She's doing it on her own," another cried. They rushed toward the table, trying to shut the system down. But it was too late. Lyra screamed. The scream wasn't loud. It was bright. A wave of white-hot light blasted from her body, melting wires and cracking glass. The room shook. A fire started on the far wall. One of the scientists was thrown across the floor. The rest ran. Lyra sat up slowly. Her arms were shaking, but her eyes were clear. She wasn't just a prisoner now. She was fighting back. At that same moment, Ray's ship landed silently on the underside of the Harvester. The docking was quick and quiet. The shields were still down, thanks to Juno's hacking from orbit. Ray and Kale stepped into a dark tunnel that smelled like oil and rust. It was an old maintenance route, long forgotten. Ray held his rifle. Kale took point with his scanner. As they moved through the tunnel, Juno spoke in their earpieces. "Alert! Emergency lights in Sector B-17. Possible energy malfunction. Ray's heart jumped. That's where the girl is. Kale raised an eyebrow. She's already causing damage. Ray smiled. She's tougher than we thought. They moved faster now, deeper into the belly of the beast. Back in the damaged lab, Lyra stumbled through smoke and sparks. She was small, tired, and weak, but she was alive. And she was free of the table. She saw a door. Locked. She reached for it, and her hand glowed again. The lock melted. She stepped into the hallway, heart pounding. She didn't know where to go, but she walked anyway. The ship was huge, and her energy was fading. But every step she took was one step away from being used, one step closer to hope. Then she heard voices. Not Zorak. Different. A voice said, Lyra. She turned. Two figures stepped out of the smoke. One was tall, human, with dark eyes and a scar across his cheek. The other was strange but kind-looking, with gray skin and deep eyes. Lyra took a step back. Ray dropped his weapon and knelt. He held out his hand. I'm Ray, he said softly. I came for you. Lyra looked at him. Her light flickered. You came, she whispered. Ray nodded. I promised someone I'd never let a little girl suffer again. Let's go home. For the first time in days, Lyra smiled. Then the alarm blared louder. Zorak soldiers were coming. Ray lifted Lyra in his arms. Kale growled, We need to move. Now. And they ran. Through the fire, through the alarms, through the heart of the monster. Behind them, the ship screamed in rage. Ahead of them, freedom waited. But it would not come easy. Invasion in the shadows. The fire spread fast. Sirens screamed across the harvesters' metal halls. Red lights flashed in warning. Zorak soldiers marched in, weapons charged, boots echoing like thunder. Somewhere inside this chaos, a human, a rebel alien, and a glowing little girl were running for their lives. Ray held Lyra close in his arms. Her body felt warm, too warm, like she was burning from the inside. Her energy had spiked again. She was still unstable. Behind them, Kale covered their path. He fired his weapon at the ceiling above them, dropping metal beams to block the Zorak patrols. Ray looked over his shoulder. They're closing in. Kale grunted. Then we go deeper. I know another way. Ray followed Kale into a narrow service tunnel. The lights here were dim, flickering, old. The air was heavy with dust and oil. As they moved, Juno spoke through Ray's earpiece. Captain, you are now inside Zone X9, uncharted section of the Harvester. No maps, no cameras, no control systems. You're alone in there. Ray whispered back, That's exactly where I want to be. Far above, in the control room, a tall Zorak commander watched the chaos unfold. His name was Vorak, and his armor was black and gold, a mark of high command. He stared at the burning lab on the screen. This is not an accident, he said. This is a break-in. One of the lieutenants trembled. A human ship was spotted landing on the lower hull. Stealth class, ID unknown. Vorak's eyes narrowed. Find them, and kill them all. He turned toward the glass window, looking out into space. They came for the girl. How noble, how foolish. Back in the tunnels, Lyra stirred in Ray's arms. Her eyes opened, still glowing dimly. She whispered, Are we safe? Ray looked down. Not yet, but we're getting close. I can walk now, she said quietly. Ray hesitated, then slowly set her down. She stood, weak but standing. Kale checked his scanner. There's an old power shaft up ahead. If we climb down, we can reach the engine core. That's where you planted the bombs, right? Ray nodded. Yes. I wanted a backup plan in case we couldn't save her. Kale grinned. Then now we use that plan to burn this place to the ground. Ray looked at Lyra. You ready? She nodded slowly. Let's make them pay. They reached the power shaft, a huge vertical tunnel that went down for hundreds of meters. Pipes and wires lined the walls. Wind howled from below. It smelled like fire and electricity. Ray hooked a cable to the side and began climbing down, with Lyra strapped gently to his chest. Cale followed with his weapon ready. Halfway down, Juno's voice crackled in Ray's ear. "New alert. Zorak guards are in the tunnels above. They know your path." Ray cursed. "How many?" "Too many." Cale growled. "We won't make it to the ship in time." Ray looked down the shaft and saw an access hatch glowing red. That was where the main energy core was, the heart of the harvester. He made a decision. "We're not going back to the ship," Ray said. "We're ending this now." Cale's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" Ray smiled coldly. "Dead serious." They dropped into the energy core chamber. The room was massive, filled with glowing machines, spinning reactors, and flowing plasma lines. In the center was a tall column, pulsing like a heartbeat. That was the ship's power core, built from the energy of children like Lyra. Lyra looked at it with fear and hate. Ray gave her a small nod. "This is where they took everything from you." Cale placed charges around the core, fast and careful. "Once this blows, the whole ship goes with it." Ray turned to Lyra. "Can you still use your light?" Lyra took a deep breath. Her fingers began to glow. "Yes, I'm scared, but I can feel it inside. It listens to me now." Ray placed her hand on the edge of the core. "Then talk to it. Burn it." The Zorak soldiers arrived. Black armor, red eyes, guns drawn. Ray raised his rifle. Cale stepped in front of Lyra. The room turned into a war zone. Bullets, plasma bolts, explosions, screams. Ray fought like a storm. His rifle barked fire. His fists broke armor. He moved with rage and skill, protecting Lyra with every breath. Cale took hits but kept standing. His alien blood spilled on the floor, but his heart burned strong. Lyra stood by the core, her eyes closed, her light growing stronger and stronger. Then she whispered something in her own language. The machine shook. The walls cracked. The core began to overload. Ray shouted, "Now, everyone out." Cale grabbed Ray, and together they ran, Lyra in the middle, her hands glowing like suns. They raced through the burning halls. The ship groaned like a dying beast. Fire spread across the walls. Juno guided them to a hangar bay on the lower level where Ray's emergency pod was hidden. A tiny escape pod, only big enough for 3. They jumped inside. Ray slammed the door shut. "Juno, go." The pod launched into space just as the harvester exploded behind them. A giant wave of white-blue energy burst out of the ship. It was not just fire. It was light. Lyra's light. Inside the pod, Ray held her hand. "You did it," he said. Cale, wounded but alive, leaned back. "We all did." Lyra smiled weakly. "Now, no more children will be hurt like me." Ray looked at the burning pieces of the harvester floating in space. "No," he said, "not ever again." But far away, in the center of Zorak space, Commander Vorak watched the explosion on his screen. His claws curled tight. "A human did this," he whispered. He turned to his officers. "Find him. Find the girl. And this time, bring me their bones." The battery breaks. The escape pod floated silently through deep space. Inside, Ray sat against the wall, breathing hard. His arms were sore, his back bruised, and his eyes bloodshot, but he was alive. Cale sat beside him, bleeding from a wound in his side. His chest rose and fell slowly. And Lyra, she was still. Too still. Her small body lay on the cold metal floor of the pod. Her skin had lost its glow. Her hair was pale and dry. The warmth of her light was gone. Ray crawled to her side. "Lyra," he whispered. "Hey, it's okay. We made it. Wake up." She didn't move. "Lyra," he said louder. "Please." He touched her face. It was cold. Cale looked over with quiet dread. Her energy. She used it all. To destroy the core. She burned everything she had. Ray shook his head. "No, no, she's not." But Lyra's chest did not rise. Ray's heart dropped. He stared at her, helpless. For a moment, the warrior inside him broke. His hands trembled. His breath caught in his throat. "I promised you," he whispered. "I promised I'd take you home." In the silence, Juno's voice crackled softly from the pod's control panel. "Captain, I'm detecting microsignals inside her. Something strange. Her energy levels are flat, yes, but not gone. They're hiding." Ray looked up. "Hiding?" Juno replied. "It's like her light is sleeping. Not dead. Waiting." Ray's eyes narrowed. Waiting for what? Cale slowly sat up straighter. "There's a place. A healing station. My people. We used to take wounded there. It's ancient. It may still work." Ray turned to him. "Can it help her?" "I don't know. But it's better than doing nothing." Ray stood. "Then we go now." He rushed to the controls and turned the pod toward the coordinates Cale gave. The engines sparked to life. Ray looked back at Lyra. He didn't speak. He just reached out and held her small hand. "I'm not losing you too," he thought. 4 hours later, they reached a hidden moon covered in white mist. Floating stones circled its skies like slow-moving birds. It was a forgotten place, untouched by war, untouched by Zorak. The pod landed near a stone temple half buried in the ground. Cale helped Ray carry Lyra inside. The walls glowed faintly with old alien runes. A circular platform sat in the middle of the chamber, surrounded by thin beams of blue light. Cale touched one of the beams. It hummed to life. "This is it," he said. "The healing cradle." Ray gently placed Lyra in the center of the platform. The beams closed around her like soft glass. The machine scanned her slowly. Then it spoke in a deep, ancient voice. "This child holds broken light. Would you offer your own to wake hers?" Ray blinked. "What does that mean?" Cale stepped back. "It's asking for a sacrifice." Ray's jaw clenched. "How much?" "Maybe all of it," Cale said. "Maybe only what she needs. But you won't know until it starts." Ray didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the cradle. "Take it," he said. "Whatever you need. Just bring her back." The lights flared. Pain hit Ray like fire. He dropped to his knees, his muscles shaking. The light moved from his chest into the cradle. Slow at first, then faster. Cale tried to help him, but Ray waved him off. "No," he gasped. "Let it finish." Inside the cradle, Lyra's body began to glow again. Soft at first, then stronger. Her fingers twitched. Her chest rose. She breathed. Ray collapsed beside the platform. His skin was pale, his heartbeat weak. Cale caught him before he hit the ground. "Foolish human," Cale muttered, "but brave." Inside the cradle, Lyra opened her eyes. "Ray," she whispered. Cale smiled. "He saved you, again." She looked down at her hands. They were glowing again, but not wild or burning. The light was soft now, controlled, balanced. "I feel different," she said, "like my light is listening to me now." Cale helped Ray to sit up. Ray smiled faintly. "Told you we'd get you home." But peace didn't last long. A small drone, high in orbit, had spotted their ship. It sent a silent signal back to Zorak Command. Commander Vorak stood in the war hall, watching the message come through. "She lives," he said. "Unacceptable." He turned to his army. "Send the hunters. This time, bring her back alive. And the human, dead or broken." Ray didn't know they were coming. But deep down, he felt it. He looked at Lyra, now glowing with calm light. and he saw something new in her eyes. Not fear. Fire. "Ray," she said softly, "I don't want to hide anymore." Ray looked at Kale. Kale nodded. "Then let's fight." Ray stood slowly, weak but still full of will. "If they want to finish this," he said, "they'll have to go through us." "Not on my watch." The healing cradle powered down. Its lights faded. Lyra stood on her own now, no longer weak, no longer shaking. The energy inside her was calm and quiet, like a gentle sun behind soft clouds. But it was there, strong, controlled, alive. Ray watched her with tired eyes. His legs were weak from the energy he had given her. His hands trembled when he tried to stand. Kale helped him up, one arm over his shoulder. "You gave too much," Kale said quietly. Ray gave a half smile. "Not enough if you ask me." Lyra walked over and hugged him. Her arms were small, but Ray felt the warmth of a rising storm inside her. "I'm okay now," she whispered. He closed his eyes for a moment and nodded. "Good, because we're not done yet." High above the moon, in the black silence of space, 6 Zorak hunter ships broke through the mist. They moved like blades, silent and fast. Inside the lead ship, Commander Vorak stood tall in his battle armor. He looked at the map on the screen. 3 red dots blinked on the moon's surface. He growled, "They think they can hide forever. Let's show them how wrong they are." Back in the temple, Kale watched the skies through an old tracking screen. "They're here," he said. Ray limped over and saw the blinking lights. "How many?" 6 ships. Heavy hunter class. Fast. Brutal. Ray looked at Lyra. "Can you do it?" She didn't blink. "If they come for us, I'll make them remember why light can burn." Ray smiled slowly. "That's my girl." They didn't run. They didn't hide. They got ready. Kale walked through the temple halls and opened a hidden room filled with weapons. Ancient, alien, powerful. Ray picked up a plasma repeater and strapped it to his chest. He tested the grip of an old Zorak blade. Kale handed Lyra a small device. "It's a focus ring. Wear it on your wrist. It will help guide your light. Make it stronger, faster." Lyra slipped it on. It hummed softly, reacting to her energy. Ray looked at the ceiling. "How long until they land?" Kale checked his timer. 10 minutes. Ray turned to Juno, now connected to the pod system. "Can you scan their positions?" Juno replied, "They're surrounding the temple. Standard 3-point formation. They'll try to box you in." Ray nodded. "We'll flip the box." Outside, the air shimmered with heat. The ground shook as the first hunter ship landed. Zorak soldiers poured out, armored and armed. Commander Vorak stepped onto the cracked stone with his heavy boots. His glowing eyes scanned the temple ruins. He raised his hand. "Bring the human to me." And the girl. Alive. His voice echoed like poison. Inside the temple, Ray stood behind a stone column. Kale was above on a ledge, his sniper rifle ready. Lyra waited near the main chamber, eyes closed, heart steady. Then Ray spoke 2 words. "Light it." Kale fired first. One clean shot, right through a Zorak's helmet. The soldier dropped before he could scream. Ray leaped from behind the stone and opened fire with his repeater. The Zorak responded fast, forming a line of defense, but Ray moved like he was born for battle. Every step he took was measured, controlled. Lyra stood still at first, then she raised her hand. The light inside her flowed through the focus ring, turning into a beam, not wild anymore. Sharp and precise. She pointed it at a Zorak weapon pack, and it exploded in a shower of sparks. They had never seen a child weaponized before. They had never seen a child fight like this. One soldier tried to charge her. She didn't move. She blinked once, and his armor melted at the edges from pure heat. He dropped his weapon and fell, unconscious. Cal's voice came through the comm, more coming from the west. Ray turned. "Lyra, with me." They moved together, her light and his bullets dancing in sync. It was not just a battle. It was something else. It was war made personal. Outside, Vorak watched the feed. His soldiers were falling, not just from gunfire, from fear. Something in them shook when they faced the human and the girl. He growled, "I'll handle it myself." He jumped down from the ship and slammed into the ground. Dust rose around him like smoke from a volcano. He was bigger than any other Zorak. His armor was fused with dark tech. His weapon was like a sword made of living metal. He marched toward the temple doors. Inside, Ray stopped and looked at Kel. "He's coming," Kel said. Ray nodded. "Then we end it now." They formed a line. Ray in the center, Kel on the right, Lyra on the left. The doors blew open. Vorak stepped in, taller than any doorway should allow. His eyes burned red. He pointed his blade at Ray. "You killed my soldiers. You destroyed my ship. You stole what was ours." Ray didn't move. "She was never yours. She is power. She is a child. Then she dies like one." "No," Ray said, stepping forward. "Not on my watch." Vorak charged. Kel fired. The shot bounced off his armor. Ray dodged the blade and swung his own. Sparks flew. Bones cracked. Lyra closed her eyes. Her hands began to glow brighter than ever before. Her light poured into the air like fireflies in a storm. Then she spoke one word. "Enough." The room froze. Time slowed for a second. Her light exploded into a wave. Not fire, not energy. Pure force. It hit Vorak like a mountain. He flew across the room, crashing into a pillar, armor burning, weapon broken. Smoke rose from his chest. He tried to stand, but Ray was already there. Ray looked into his eyes. "You came to take a child's light." He pulled the trigger. Vorak fell and didn't get up. Silence returned. Kel lowered his weapon. "Is it over?" Ray looked around. Zorak ships burned outside. No more soldiers came. Lyra stood in the center of the room, glowing softly. Not too bright, not too dark. Just right. Ray knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded. "I didn't kill him with hate. I used my light to protect." Ray smiled. "You did more than that. You gave us hope. Humanity pays its debts." The stars were quiet again. The temple was still. The battle was over. Smoke rose from broken ships. Alien blood marked the stones. The dead Zorak soldiers were scattered across the sand. But the war was not finished. Not yet. Ray stood at the edge of the temple ruins, staring into the night sky. His body hurt. His bones ached. But his eyes were sharp. His mind clear. Beside him stood Lyra, small, calm, glowing gently. She looked peaceful, but inside, she was a storm now waiting to be used with purpose, not pain. Kel leaned against a wall nearby, his arm in a sling, his weapon still ready. His people had joined them after the battle. Old warriors, rebels, outcasts, tired of hiding, ready to stand. Ray looked up as Juno's voice came through the comm. The Zorak homeworld just declared full mobilization. They're calling what happened a terrorist attack. Ray laughed once, dry and bitter. Of course they are. Juno continued. They've issued an order. All light-born species are to be captured. No survivors. Lyra heard that and looked at Ray. They'll come for more kids. Ray nodded. Unless we stop them first. Kel stepped forward. One last fight. Ray turned to him. No. One last message. They gathered the parts from the fallen Zorak ships. Engines, panels, weapons. Kel's people helped rebuild the Vengeance, stronger than before. Faster, quieter, sharper. Ray walked through the ship with Lyra beside him. She had her own room now. A soft bed, warm lights, a small window to watch the stars. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Ray gave her a small pendant, a piece of metal from the harvester. On it, he carved the word free in human language. She held it to her chest. "Will they fear me now?" she asked. Ray looked at her. "No," he said. "They'll fear what you stand for." The journey to the Zorak homeworld took 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of planning. Ray knew this wasn't about winning a war. It was about ending a cycle. The Zorak thought they could take children, drain them, build power from pain, and never pay for it. Ray was going to show them the cost. Juno spoke as they entered enemy space. "We are being scanned. 5 warships ahead, waiting." Ray smiled. "Let them wait." Kale stood beside him in the command room, wearing his old armor. "Are you ready?" Ray looked at Lyra. She was standing at the center of the ship's bridge. She wasn't just glowing anymore. She was shining. Not wild, but focused. She looked like a star wearing a human heart. "Yes," Ray said. "We're ready." The 5 warships opened fire. Ray didn't move. Lyra raised her hand, and the stars blinked. A shield of pure light spread from her like wings, catching the blasts and turning them into sparks. The Zorak weapons couldn't break through. Ray flew the Vengeance straight through the center of their formation. Kale dropped bombs from the side panels. Juno hacked their systems mid-flight. It wasn't a battle. It was judgment. And they were the sentence. They landed on the edge of the Zorak capital, a towering city of black stone and silver towers. Sirens howled. Troops marched. Ray didn't hide. He walked through the main square with Kale and Lyra beside him. Behind them, thousands of Kale's people marched too. Aliens from many worlds. Survivors. Warriors. The people the Zorak thought would never rise. Ray stood at the center and held up a speaker device. "This is Ray Carter," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "You took my daughter. You took their sisters, their sons, their friends." He pointed to Lyra. "You took her light. You used it. You built empires on pain." He looked around the city. "We're here to collect the debt." The Zorak soldiers surrounded them. But before they could fire, the sky exploded. Lyra raised her arms, and a wave of pure light covered the city. But it didn't burn. It blinded. Every machine powered by stolen children shut down. The Zorak ships fell from the sky like birds with broken wings. Every lab that held a child collapsed. The screams were not of war. They were of justice. Hours later, the Zorak surrendered. Their leaders were captured. The system they built was broken. And the children, the ones who still lived, were found and freed. Kal's people took them in, protected them. Ray stood on a hill outside the city, watching the twin suns rise. Lyra stood beside him, holding his hand. "What happens now?" she asked. Ray looked at the sky. "Now we build something better." She leaned against him. "Together." He nodded. "Together." Back aboard the Vengeance, Juno spoke quietly. "Mission complete. Enemy crushed. Light restored." Ray looked out the window at a galaxy changed forever. He didn't want medals. He didn't want statues. He just wanted peace. But if the darkness ever came again, he would be ready. Because now the galaxy knew. You do not hurt a child under human protection. Not without paying everything. The end.